So, of course, and I understand people paying attention to that and, journal. I get that. Like, people need to go, like, that's weird. What's up?
For 6 seasons, Third Rock from the Sun made millions of people laugh every single week. It won award after award. Critics adored it, and the cast was beloved. By every measure that matters in Hollywood, this show was a genuine success. However, the show ended with no special farewell or celebration, leaving fans absolutely confused. What most people never realized was that, behind the laughter, the show was quietly grappling with devastating creative challenges that almost derailed the vision. The cast members were equally fighting personal battles so dark they spent years trying to cover them up. When the show finally ended, the network pointed to one simple explanation, but that explanation was never the whole truth. Now, for the first time, we finally know what really happened. The making of Third Rock from the Sun. Third Rock from the Sun was conceived and created by the husband and wife screenwriting duo Bonnie and Terry Turner. They had already written for Saturday Night Live and The Simpsons, and they understood the mechanics of comedy at a deep level. But they wanted to do something different, something that had not been tried on network television before. The Turners designed the show as a fish-out-of-water social satire. The premise was simple but brilliant. 4 extraterrestrials land in a fictional Ohio town, disguised as a human family, to observe human behavior. They knew everything about the cosmos, but absolutely nothing about human emotions, biology, or social norms. The core comedic engine relied on this gap between cosmic knowledge and earthly ignorance. The aliens could explain the physics of faster-than-light travel, but they could not figure out why humans cried when they were sad or laughed when they were happy. They did not understand jealousy or love or the confusing rituals of dating. Every episode was built around some ordinary human experience that the aliens would misinterpret in the most extraordinary way. The show was developed under Carsey Werner Productions, an independent powerhouse studio known for structural sitcom hits like The Cosby Show and Roseanne. The studio had a reputation for giving creative teams the freedom to take risks, and the Turners took full advantage of that freedom. Before we go on, I want to take 25 seconds to share something I genuinely think is important. While you're sleeping tonight, your brain is supposed to be running its own cleaning cycle, flushing out the toxic waste that built up during the day. Scientists already discovered this system in 2013. They also found that in most people over 50, it's running at less than half capacity. That's not aging. That's a blocked system. And researchers have found exactly what blocks it. Go to brainresearchreport.com, or it's linked right below this video if that's easier. It's one of the most important things I've come across for anyone our age. Now let's get back to it. The casting process was crucial to the show's success. John Lithgow was the creator's top choice for the High Commander, Dick Solomon. He was the leader of the alien crew, the one who was supposed to be the most intelligent and the most incompetent at the same time. Lithgow was initially hesitant to sign on to a television sitcom. He had an established career in film and theater, and he worried that a weekly sitcom would typecast him or limit his options. He agreed to read the pilot script, and he found something unexpected. The script blended highbrow wit with intense physical comedy, the kind of performance that he had been craving. He signed on, and his decision would earn him 3 Emmy Awards. Jane Curtin, an original Saturday Night Live cast member, was brought in to play Dr. Mary Albright, Dick's human colleague and love interest. Curtin had spent years as the straight woman to some of the wildest comedians of her generation. She knew how to stand in the middle of chaos and keep a straight face. She grounded the alien absurdism with an experienced, steady presence. When Lithgow was flailing his arms and screaming about nothing, Curtin was there to look at him like he was crazy. Their chemistry was immediate and essential to the show's tone. Kristen Johnston secured the role of Sally Solomon, the tough alien tactical officer trapped in a human woman's body. Casting directors noticed her during an off-Broadway stage production where she had played a tough physical role that required her to throw men across the stage. They brought her in for auditions, and she went through multiple rounds before securing the part. Johnston was tall, blonde, and physically imposing, which was perfect for a character who was supposed to be the crew's military strategist. She played Sally as someone who was fiercely proud of her alien identity, but secretly enjoyed being human. Johnston's performance won her 2 Emmy Awards. French Stewart was brought in to play Harry Solomon, the crew's communications officer. Stewart created the character's signature squinting, eccentric physical tics during his initial audition. The tics were not in the script. They came from Stewart's own instincts about how an alien who was not quite comfortable in a human body might move. The showrunners loved it immediately. Harry became the strangest member of an already strange family, and Stewart's performance was a fan favorite. A young Joseph Gordon-Levitt was cast as Tommy Solomon, the oldest member of the alien crew stuck in the body of an angsty human teenager. Gordon-Levitt was only 15 years old when the show started, but he had been acting since he was a child. He understood the comedy and the pathos of a 400-year-old alien forced to endure high school. His performance grounded the show's teenage perspective, and he grew up on screen as the series progressed. The series officially premiered on NBC on January 9, 1996. It became an instant ratings hit for the network. By the conclusion of its first season, it ranked number 22 overall in the Nielsen ratings. During its second season, which ran from 1996 to 1997, the show climbed to number 20 overall, averaging nearly 20 million viewers per episode. The show was not just popular, it was a cultural phenomenon. At the 1997 Primetime Emmy Awards, the series won 5 Emmys, making it the most awarded television program of that calendar year. John Lithgow won the Emmy for Outstanding Lead Actor in a comedy series 3 times, in 1996, 1997, and 1999. He achieved a rare feat by being nominated for every single year the show was on the air. Kristen Johnston won 2 Emmys for Outstanding Supporting Actress in a Comedy Series in 1997 and 1999. Over its full 6-season run, the show accumulated a total of 31 Emmy nominations. The critics loved it, the audiences loved it, and the actors loved making it. But behind the scenes, the production was facing challenges that no one watching at home could see. Behind the scenes production challenges. By the 4th and 5th seasons, the writing staff began facing severe creative hurdles. The central premise of the show, which involved aliens reacting to human concepts for the first time, was starting to run out of novel ground to cover. The writers had already done episodes about dating, marriage, work, school, friendship, jealousy, anger, sadness, and joy. They had already done the episode where Dick discovers that humans are not always rational. They had already done the episode where Sally learns that being tough is not the same as being strong. The well of fresh ideas was not dry, but it was getting harder to draw water from it. To combat the formatting fatigue, the show turned to expensive production gimmicks. One of the most notable examples was a special 2-part episode called Nightmare on Dick Street, which was filmed in 3D. The episode required viewers to wear special 3D glasses to get the full effect. The gimmick was fun for audiences, but it strained the production budgets and the writing continuity. The writers had to craft a story that worked in 3D, which meant including visual gags that would not have been possible in a standard episode. The result was entertaining but expensive, and it was a sign that the show was struggling to find new ways to keep the audience engaged. Behind the scenes, creative friction grew as the show moved away from the subtle social satire that had defined its best episodes. The early seasons had used the alien premise to comment on human behavior in a way that was smart and insightful. A character would misunderstand a social norm, and the audience would laugh, but they would also think about why that norm existed in the first place. As the seasons went on, the writing relied more heavily on exaggerated slapstick and science fiction tropes to sustain the plots. The aliens stopped being observers of human behavior and started being characters in their own right, which was fine for comedy, but less interesting for satire. The physical demands of the show were another source of strain. Third Rock from the Sun relied on demanding, high-energy physical comedy. The cast performed their own falls, leaps, and fight choreography. John Lithgow, who was in his 50s when the show started, threw himself across furniture and rolled down stairs. Kristen Johnston, who played the tough alien soldier, lifted grown men and threw them across the set. French Stewart squinted and twitched and contorted his face into expressions that could not have been comfortable. The physical comedy was hilarious, but it was also exhausting and, at times, dangerous. The production schedules made everything worse. In the early years, the show filmed up to 26 episodes per season. That is a lot of television, more than most modern sitcoms produce in 2 years. The pace caused deep physical exhaustion for the core cast, who had to sustain extremely high energy levels on camera for hours at a time. An episode that looks effortless on screen required multiple takes, days of rehearsal, and weeks of shooting. By the time the cast reached the end of a season, they were running on fumes. As the show progressed, Joseph Gordon-Levitt grew tired of the sitcom schedule. He was a teenager when the show started, and he wanted to go to college. He wanted to have a normal life. He wanted to prioritize his education over his career. He reached an agreement with the producers to scale back his role in the show. The agreement allowed him to appear in fewer episodes so that he could attend classes and focus on his studies. Because of this agreement, Gordon-Levitt went from a main cast member to a recurring character during the final season. He appeared in only a fraction of the episodes. This disrupted the core 4-alien dynamic on set. The show had been built around the chemistry between Lithgow, Johnston, Stewart, and Gordon-Levitt. Removing one of those 4 changed the energy of the production. The writers had to find ways to explain Tommy's absences, which meant that the remaining cast members had to carry episodes that had been written for 4 people. It was not impossible, but it was not the same. The production challenges were real, but they were not the only reasons the show ended. Behind the scenes, individual cast members were fighting personal battles that made the daily grind of filming even harder. Some of those battles were public. Some were private. All of them contributed to the decision to end the show before it completely ran out of steam. Personal life challenges the cast members faced. Kristen Johnston, who played Sally Solomon and won 2 Emmy Awards for her performance, was hiding a secret from everyone on set. Behind the scenes of her professional success, she was battling a severe hidden addiction to alcohol and prescription medication. The sudden explosion of fame and the pressure of being in the public eye triggered deep self-doubt, panic attacks, and clinical depression during the filming of the show. She was not the tough alien soldier that she played on screen. She was a woman who was struggling to keep herself together, and she was doing it in silence. At her lowest point during the show, Johnston was consuming 2 bottles of wine per night alongside heavy doses of illicit substances. She was what experts call a functioning addict. She showed up to work on time, knew her lines, and delivered her performances. The crew did not know what she was doing when she went home at night. The network did not know. Her castmates did not know. She hid her status as a functioning addict from everyone, and she kept hiding it for years. Her addiction initially began as a treatment for migraines. She had suffered from severe headaches for years, and a doctor prescribed medication to help manage the pain. But things escalated, and she became addicted. The physical toll of her addiction was severe. The substances led to an ulcer in her stomach, a wound that grew larger and deeper as she fed her addiction. The ulcer did not cause her enough pain to stop, so she ignored it. Sadly, the ulcer would eventually burst, a medical emergency that nearly killed her after the show concluded. But during the run of Third Rock from the Sun, she kept her secret hidden, and no one around her suspected how close she was to disaster. John Lithgow did not face the same kind of substance struggles, but he experienced his own form of pressure. As the top-billed star of the show, he felt personally responsible for maintaining the quality of the episodes and the morale of the cast. The network was not always supportive. The ratings, while strong, were not as strong as they had been in the early seasons. Lithgow carried the weight of those declines on his shoulders. He was the one who had to keep the cast focused when the scripts were not working. He was the one who had to reassure the crew when the budgets were cut. He was the leader of the alien family, and he took that responsibility seriously. French Stewart, who played Harry Solomon, suffered from a different kind of professional anxiety. His highly stylized performance as Harry, with the squinting eyes and the jerky movements, became so recognizable that he faced immediate typecasting. He was not French Stewart, the versatile actor. He was Harry, the weird alien who could not walk in a straight line. The fear of being trapped in that character, of never being offered another kind of role, weighed on him throughout the show's run. He loved playing Harry, but he did not want to be Harry forever. The longer the show continued, the harder it would be for him to escape the character's shadow. Joseph Gordon-Levitt, the youngest member of the main cast, struggled with the intense public scrutiny and teen magazine fame that came with his role. He was a teenager when the show started, and he was suddenly being photographed everywhere he went. Girls screamed his name at malls. Magazines wrote about his dating life. He hated it. He hated the celebrity lifestyle. The attention made him uncomfortable, and the loss of privacy made him angry. His growing resentment toward the Hollywood machine prompted his decision to step back from the show to attend Columbia University. He needed to get away from the cameras and the fans and the constant pressure of being a public figure. College was his escape, and he took it. The personal struggles of the cast were not widely known during the show's original run. Johnston hid her addiction. Lithgow hid his anxiety. Stewart hid his fear of typecasting. Gordon-Levitt hid his resentment behind a polite smile. The audience saw a happy, functional family of aliens who made them laugh every week. They did not see the cost that the cast was paying to deliver those laughs. By the time the 6th season rolled around, the cumulative weight of these challenges was becoming impossible to ignore. The writing was struggling. The budgets were tight. The cast was exhausted and distracted. The show that had won 5 Emmys in a single year was running on fumes, and everyone involved knew that something had to give. The decision to end the show was not made lightly, and the official reason that the public was given was not the whole truth. The tragic decline of the show. The numbers told a clear story. After averaging nearly 20 million viewers in Season 2, the show's viewership fell sharply in the years that followed. The decline was not sudden. It was a slow bleed, the kind of erosion that happens when a show stays on the air too long, and the audience gradually finds other things to watch. By the 6th and final season, which ran from 2000 to 2001, the show's average viewership had plummeted to roughly 7 million viewers per episode. That was less than half of what the show had drawn at its peak. 7 million viewers is not nothing. Many shows would be grateful for 7 million viewers. But for a show that had been a top 20 hit, a show that had won Emmys and launched catchphrases, the drop was devastating. Due to the severe ratings drop, NBC officially canceled the series in the spring of 2001. The network did not make a big announcement. There was no farewell press conference, no tearful goodbye from the executives who had greenlit the show. The cancellation was treated as a business decision, a simple matter of numbers. The show ended its run on May 22, 2001, after broadcasting a total of 139 episodes across 6 seasons. The final episode aired, and then the show was gone. The cast reacted to the cancellation in a way that might surprise fans. Members of the cast, including Kristen Johnston, publicly noted that the cancellation felt like a relief rather than a tragedy. The physical and emotional strain of making the show had made the set environment unsustainable. They were tired. They were hurting. They were ready to be done. Johnston, who had been hiding her addiction throughout the run of the show, later said that the cancellation probably saved her life. She did not know how much longer she could have kept up the facade. John Lithgow voiced frustration regarding the cancellation, but his anger was directed at the network executives rather than the creative team. He believed that the show still had good episodes left in it. He believed that the cast was still capable of delivering great performances. He blamed NBC for failing to promote the show, for moving it around the schedule, for treating it like an old piece of furniture that was taking up space. Lithgow later said that the cancellation was not a creative failure. It was a corporate decision, and those are not the same thing. Unlike other major sitcoms of the era, the cancellation of Third Rock from the Sun did not trigger major fan protests or save the show campaigns. When Star Trek was canceled, fans wrote letters by the thousands. When Family Guy was canceled, fans bought DVD sets and drove up sales. When Third Rock ended, the audience shrugged. There was no outcry because the show had already lost the passionate core of its fan base. The people who had loved the show in its early seasons had moved on to other things. The people who were still watching in Season 6 were not the kind of fans who wrote letters to network executives. Television critics noted that by 2001, public interest had simply moved on. The late 1990s were dominated by quirky, character-driven sitcoms like News Radio and Just Shoot Me. By the early 2000s, the audience's tastes had shifted. Workplace comedies like The Office were on the horizon. Reality television shows like Survivor and American Idol were dominating the ratings. Third Rock from the Sun belonged to a different era, and the audience was ready for something new. The show finished its run quietly. There was no big farewell party broadcast on national television. No retrospective specials. No cast reunion announced. The final episode aired, the credits rolled, and the alien family from Ohio disappeared from the airwaves. For years, that was the accepted story of why the show ended. Ratings dropped. The network canceled it. The cast moved on. But that was not the whole truth. There was another reason why Third Rock from the Sun ended when it did. A reason that had nothing to do with ratings or network decisions. The real reason the show ended. According to definitive statements made by John Lithgow and Kristen Johnston, NBC changed the show's time slot more than 15 times during its 6-year run. 15 times. That is not an exaggeration or a rounding up. The network moved Third Rock from the Sun to different days of the week and different hours on more than 15 separate occasions. Some of those moves were minor adjustments of a few minutes. Others were complete shifts from one night of the week to another. The constant shuffling made it impossible for regular viewers to find the show. A fan who watched every Tuesday at 8:01 p.m. would tune in the next week to find a different show in that time slot. They would have to hunt for Third Rock, and many of them eventually stopped hunting. The impact on the audience was predictable and devastating. Fans could not build a viewing habit because the network kept breaking the habit. Families who had made Third Rock part of their weekly routine gave up and started watching something else. Casual viewers who might have become fans never got the chance to discover the show because it was never in the same place twice. The ratings declined not because the show got worse, but because the network made it impossible to watch. NBC used Third Rock as what industry insiders call a sacrificial lamb. The network regularly moved it to difficult time slots to plug holes in the schedule or to compete against blockbuster shows on rival networks. When a new show was failing in a prime-time slot, NBC would move Third Rock into that slot to try to salvage the hour. When another network launched a highly anticipated program, NBC would move Third Rock opposite it to try to steal viewers away. This strategy preserved hits like Seinfeld and Friends, which were given stable time slots and consistent promotion. But the strategy systematically destroyed Third Rock's ratings. The show was not canceled because audiences rejected it. It was canceled because NBC used it up and threw it away. The syndication roadblocks that followed the show's cancellation only made things worse. Carsey Werner launched the show into off-network broadcast syndication in September 1999, while the show was still producing new episodes. But because the original network run had already lost ratings momentum, the syndication packages were sold off to changing cable channels with no consistent branding. The show cycled through Fox Family, ABC Family, TV Land, Reelz Channel, and Laugh. A viewer who wanted to watch Third Rock reruns had to know which channel was carrying it in which month. And the answer kept changing. The streaming era was even more difficult. The show's erratic late-season identity caused it to fall out of the cultural conversation for years. Unlike Friends, which secured a permanent home on streaming platforms and introduced itself to new generations of viewers, Third Rock struggled to get top-tier streaming placements for more than a decade. The show that had won 5 Emmys in a single year was being treated like an afterthought by the companies that controlled how people watched television. The cast members, however, have all gone on to successful careers despite the show's turbulent end. Kristen Johnston faced the most difficult road. In 2013, she was diagnosed with lupus myelitis, a rare autoimmune condition that affects the spinal cord. The illness left her temporarily unable to walk or lift her head without a brace. She required chemotherapy and extensive treatment before she finally achieved remission. Before that health crisis, she had checked into a rehab facility in Arizona to face her addiction head-on. She has remained sober for more than 14 years. She published her addiction and recovery story in her best-selling memoir, Guts, The Endless Follies and Tiny Triumphs of a Giant Disaster, in 2012. She made a successful return to television, starring in the sitcom The Exes and joining the main cast of the hit CBS comedy series Mom. Joseph Gordon-Levitt, after leaving the show and attending college, successfully broke out of his child star image. He became a major film star, appearing in blockbusters like Inception, The Dark Knight Rises, and 500 Days of Summer. He is now one of the most respected actors of his generation. John Lithgow transitioned back to theater and dramatic film roles. He achieved critical acclaim for playing a serial killer on Dexter and portraying Winston Churchill in Netflix's The Crown. He has won additional Emmys, Tony Awards, and the kind of respect that only comes from a lifetime of excellent work. French Stewart continued to work steadily in Hollywood as a dependable character actor, making guest appearances on shows like Mom, where he reunited with Johnston, and working in theater. The real reason Third Rock from the Sun ended has nothing to do with the quality of the show or the talent of its cast. The show ended because NBC moved it around the schedule more than 15 times, destroyed its ratings momentum, and then canceled it for having low ratings. The network used the show as a tool to protect its other programs, and when the tool was worn out, they threw it away. The show did not fail. The network failed the show. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to click on the next video on your screen, like, and subscribe to our channel for more updates.